September 2010. Coventry Airport reopens by putting on a public show, a fly-in, and the biggest crowd puller in the UK arrives, the Vulcan. But I'm excited for another reason. I'm having a flight in a Jet Provost. This is the JP5, operated by Classic Flight. And my pilot is John Dodd. I've been strapped in, and we've gone through the emergency procedures. John continues with the engine start. He switches on the battery master, the jet pipe temperature limiter, the ignition switches, and then switches the instruments to start position and operates the inverter test switch. Now a careful scan of the instruments, check that everything looks good. So after checking that Pat White, the crew chief, is happy, time to monitor the RT, and when you can, call for start approval.
Good afternoon, it's Jet Provost Golf, Juliet, Papa Romeo Oscar.
Jet Provost, good afternoon.
Jet Provost, afternoon, I'm over on the southern apron, like start please.
Jet Provost, Roger, start approved. Quebec is current temperature +13, QNH is 1014.
1014 Quebec, I've got, thanks, Jet Provost.
1014 millibars already set on the altimeter, so after setting the stopwatch, John starts by holding the ground start button for a couple of seconds. The automatic engine start then commences. He monitors the exhaust temperature gauge, which is slowly rising. But if it exceeds 650 degrees, he'll close the HP cop. He's also checking the engine RPM and the oil pressure gauges. Another test done at this time is the fuel valve test. 2 push buttons. You have to wait for green light to come on. Starting complete, he switches the flight instruments to normal. Then does another instrument scan, checking for instance that the electrics are okay. Over on my side, John now checks the brakes and fuel pressure gauges. Tells me to mind my elbows, and he presses the button to close the canopy. Check the other fuel valve test, gives a green light. And moves to the flat lever and air brake switch on the sidewall by the throttle. The ground engineer confirms that these are operating okay. Clock's away. A slight pause while he monitors the RT, and then calls for taxi approval.
Jet Provost, request taxi.
Jet Provost, taxi holding point Echo, runway 05.
Echo for runway 05, Jet Provost.
And 53 Echo, if you can approach from...
John checks if I'm alright. I certainly am, and I'm looking forward to this. So we start to move. John checks the brakes. We get a thumbs up and a wave. As we turn, Pat White makes sure we're okay. We trundle out past the Classic Flight Venoms. We had all hoped to fly in formation today, but alas ATC weren't able to authorise that. And there's the Classic Flight Canberra, which hopefully sometime will get airborne again. And we also get away from John Hooton's vampire crew. I start to muse on how many instructors have sat in this right-hand seat during this Jet Provost working life. XW433 was built in 1972 and served with numbers 3 and number 7 FTS. It's a 5A Jet Provost, but upgraded avionics and was chiefly modified to provide a pressurised version of the trainer. We pause at the Echo hold, John taking this opportunity to check his notes, make sure he knows all the relative speeds, etc.
Yep, push ready for the march.
Jet Provost, roger, and your intentions?
I'll depart out to the south towards Big Hot Water and then call for rejoin.
Jet Provost, roger, enter the runway at Echo and then vacate right to Bravo 1 to taxi down to Alpha 1. Advise ready there.
Okay, enter at Echo off at Bravo to hold at Alpha, Jet Provost. But if possible, I'd like one low approach and go around before departing.
Roger, that's all copy. Victor Sierra, roger, hold position at Charlie 1.
At Bravo, John does a bit of a pirouette, giving the crowd something to look at and giving us a nice view of the volcano. We taxi along the crowd line and past our friends at Airbase, before pulling up at the Alpha 1 hold.
Jet Provost, after the landing, Prentice on finals, line up 05.
Jet Provost.
So as a classic flight Prentice touches down, we move slowly forward, going onto the runway to backtrack and get right to the very end.
Halifax 02, roger, continue. Unit Bravo, 180, backtrack right to Bravo 1.
Backtrack right to Bravo 1, go off to Bravo.
At the end of the runway, John does his final checks, checking the fuel contents and balance, and that the flaps are at takeoff.
Final. 02, roger, and if you make an approach to the remaining north side of the runway, Jet Provost depart shortly, portion of Prentice just taxiing in to the west station to Bravo 1.
I'll visual the aircraft past Bravo 1 and make an approach to the north side.
Jet Provost, there is a Jet Ranger on finals remaining north side of runway 05. 05, right turn, clear takeoff, 33012. Jet Provost, A firm, and it will be a right turn into the circuit.
John increases the power, checking temperatures and pressures. The brakes are held on until 90% RPM, and then as they come off, away we go.